it is not appropriate for me to start this one off with the peace greeting. So I'm going to spare you all that in order to avoid even the appearance of hypocrisy accidentally. Just like the last one I uploaded. Aaron Sloan is the name of the plumber that went on that balloon popping show. And the sisterhood, the hyena bitches, declared war on him because he stood up for himself and he didn't tolerate their shit. And that was one of the reasons why I sat up and I told you all in no uncertain terms that this is war and this is not a joke. And that they are dead serious about fighting this war to make sure that you have every outcome in life you don't want. And that they believe that you don't deserve these outcomes that you want because you want them. And then not only must you pay for the outcomes you want, but that also you must pay enough to make the outcome no longer worth the trouble. You must pay more than what the outcome you want is worth. And so, therefore, you can tell it's war. They have their minds made up that you, because you are a heterosexual black man, should be treated in whatever way they would not tolerate being treated. And that you know they would not tolerate being treated. Because they must put it into your head that they are superior and you are inferior and you deserve mistreatment. According to whatever definition you both can understand mistreatment to be, you deserve mistreatment. So, when I told you it's war, it's not me being hyperbolic or hyperbolic as some people pronounce it. It is because that's what defines their actions. And the motive for their actions, many times, many of you don't understand until I tell you or you hear someone else say it. But the motive for their actions is the evil of the actions themselves. The choices they make regarding you are determined by the evil of the actions themselves. They choose that which is evil to you. They choose that which is going to cause you to feel the least satisfied. And this is why they come to you and they state to you that you're transphobic if you don't want a trans woman. But you are entitled and arrogant if you look for a natural born woman of a similar age to you or younger that has fewer children than you have and fewer baby daddies than you have baby mamas and an equal or lower body count than yours. This is what determines how they make their decisions. This is why it is that if she tells you that she's carrying and you're like, man, this is great. I didn't know I was ever going to be a dad. I feel like the Lord done really blessed me. You about to become a dad. Then she's like, oh my God, this dude is so geeky. I need to go ahead and abort this baby. But then if you decide, you know what? I'm still young. I'm trying to get out here and hit that. I'm trying to get out here and smash. I don't need to be trapped with no baby. Go ahead and abort. I ain't ready and you ain't ready. Then what does she do? She carries it to term. I talked about this before. And I was waiting for somebody to come along and say, black man, you wrong. That ain't how sisters do it. They basing on what they want. But nobody came along and said, wait a minute, you know what? I wanted to keep the baby so she kept it. Or I wanted to abort so she aborted it. And I've heard some people who had stories like that. I mean, I've heard of cases where there were some men who said, you know what? This is what happened. I asked her to abort and she did. But in more recent years, it's not been that. In more recent years, it's been, no, I said, don't keep the baby. We weren't trying to conceive, so she kept it. Or, you know what? I was ecstatic about being a dad, so she deleted the baby. This is what's been going on here. And nobody's come along and told me, man, you know, I ain't seen that. Now, some people may have anecdotal stories, but when I'm talking about the overall pattern, no black man has come along and said, actually, the pattern for me has been different. My boys usually get the ladies to do what they ask, or at least what they agree to do after a discussion. No, I was pretty much telling you that sisters will do what you don't want them to do. That's how they choose what they're going to do. And ain't nobody come along and said, no, bro. And on top of that, you got this woman in Nigeria. And we're going to talk about this diaspora and beef going on. Because I'm getting tired of the beef between African Americans that don't hate other black people and continental Africans that don't hate diasporans, North American or Caribbean. And Caribbean black folk who don't hate other diasporans or Africans. The beef includes those who don't hate each other, because that's what beef winds up being when it's black people. Sorry about that. My sinus is acting up. But I'm going to tell you all something right quick. Shouts out to the ones that don't have the hatred and that don't look up to and worship the white man. One shout out goes to Senor Conga. Senor Conga has refused to engage in this, even when some of his people have told him, stop listening to them black Americans, and especially stop listening to Black Mind, that Muslim guy. He said to them, no, you know what, F that. And when they say, well, ain't he Muslim? He done stood his ground against his own, against people who are related to him. And he done said, listen, if he's not saying something that is detrimental to us, then I'm not going to stand against him with a grudge. And black Americans are not these enemies. Who told you they're enemies? The Portuguese, and you listened to them after what they did to our country? And you listened to them after what they did to those of us that they kidnapped from here and took over to Brazil and did God knows what to them, and you listened to them over your cousins that are black Americans or maybe even black Brazilians? This is what it is that he has said to his own. That's not an enemy. That's not a tether. The northern Nigerians I've met are not enemies, and they're not tethers. They actually congregated in my old city. They congregated with each other and ate lunch together every Friday and said to me, we like each other, but for us to actually meet, you are the centripetal force. Me, the bald-headed, light-skinned black American Creole whose blackness is debatable. And they're sitting up and saying that this diasporan who's happy to meet his relatives from whom his ancestors were kidnapped is a centripetal force to them not talking on the phone and knowing each other, but physically meeting each other for meals. That's what they said. When I went back to visit, I snuck up on one of them, the first one I met. Surprised him when I was back there visiting my wife before she moved here. I said, man, listen, where y'all been eating lunch at lately? Y'all been eating at the Indian and Chinese restaurant? I know, right? Indian and Chinese? Or have y'all been eating elsewhere? Has anybody started a Nigerian restaurant? That man said, we ain't been eating together much, except once a month in the park on picnics. But the weekly one, no, bro, you were the centripetal force, and you moved. This is not hatred. On the ground, Africans from the continent don't walk around hating us. They disagree with us. They don't hate us. Now, Tinubu, the first lady of Nigeria, did make them smart-ass comments. And I'm not letting her off the hook just because she's a Muslim from the north. She's been living in Abuja too long with her husband. Time for her to go back to the north and get reacquainted with it. That's what's up. And so she said that, and I'm going to hold her to that. I don't even remember what she said. It was unfavorable and unfair to Black Americans as a blanket, as a whole. Kai Cenat said what he said, and I ain't letting him off the hook for that. Now that's a tether. Because when it benefits to being Black American, he's going to want them benefits. But then, when there's a criticism that other Black folks have against Black Americans, that is the fault of Western Europe, just like their colonization and kidnappings were the fault of Western Europe, he going to sit up and join in on the criticisms too. And they're criticisms we deserve. There are. I'm not lying about that. But the criticisms we deserve have to come with a sense of fairness. And so you get this lady from Nigeria sitting up talking about how she slept with lecturers and professors to earn her degree, and what does she do? She acts just like the Western Keisha, that mainly her people, I can tell by the language she was speaking, she was from the South. I don't even know which language it was. But she sat up there and said she slept with professors, and then later she cried because the university said, give back that certificate. Bitch, you know what the hell your stank ass did. You said you did it. You confessed. And somebody in the comments section said, I'm actually here. I'm in the town where the university is. They're going after her degree and the professors that taught her. They're not doing one or the other. The thing is, the professors are there. So they can go to them and say, okay, you know what? You're being sacked if we find out you're one of those that gave it a grade. That's what happened. But they got to tell her to send the certificate back, the piece of paper, because they ain't going to honor it no more. And it really don't make a difference because Nigeria has a very thorough system of validating degrees, because otherwise everybody would say they have a degree. So she has an authentic paper, but if they double checked it, they would find out that it's been rescinded. All they're really doing is asking her to send the paper back so that she can't even present the paper to trick people that might not do the double check. That's really all it is them being extra thorough. Once an employer double checks her, it's over. And besides, the only people she can get to hire her now are people who don't have access to the internet. That's the only one that's going to hire her. That's it. But this woman set up and did this, and what she acted exactly like the Keishas on that balloon popping show that went after Aaron Sloan's job. Won't take accountability. And this is why I say to you that when it comes down to these diasporan beefs, you need to stop as men fighting with each other overall. You let somebody prove that they're a low-life sellout, race traitor piece of shit, no matter what their nationality is, and then you go after them. That's what you do. Kai Cenat was not a race traitor till he said that shit. He said Black Americans have no culture. Even then, I don't know if it's treachery. But if he really believes it, then he's stupid. And I don't think he really believes it. Black Americans have no culture. No, we got several African and European and even original American cultures with an S rolled into one. And we still got multiple cultures because if you want to know the truth, me being from the Gulf Coast, deep South, I am not the same as black folks that grew up in Atlanta. We're similar, not identical. And I am not the same as the ones that grew up in Montgomery, even though my family comes out of Mobile. I didn't grow up in Mobile either, though. We are similar, not identical. And I am not the same as the Gullah, who are the cousins of the Creoles in a way, to a certain extent. Who retained African customs and traditions with a sense of shame, just like the Creoles retained certain African customs and traditions, but with a sense of shame. Went through similar experiences, being culturally distinct. We are related, we're not identical. And African Americans whose grandparents went from the South to the North are not the same based on where they landed. The Midwestern African American is not the same as the East Coast African American. They went up to New York and New Jersey. They are not the same. They call each other God and son and kid. One is blasphemy to other African Americans anywhere you go. On the Gulf Coast, you call a black man God, that man will look at you like, nigga, what? I mean, thanks for the compliment, but you just insulted God. I'm a human being, and so are you. No, I'm a God. See, God body, mathematics. Nigga, you a God with a doctor's appointment? You a God with rent you can't pay? You a God that's going to have to ask somebody to help you one day? You a God that somebody's going to come and ask for help, and you're going to lend help, but it can't solve the problem by yourself, and you're going to have to ask others to help you help them. And the other two, son and kid, were they insults, because we don't know that they're saying S-U-N, like the sun in the sky, the stars. We think they mean S-O-N, and if you ain't my daddy, you don't call me son. I let my wife's mother call me son because she means son-in-law, and that's cool. And my son's fiance has called me dad because father-in-law in her language is a complicated thing to say. And those are the exceptions I tolerate. And that's because I came up in that conservative Gulf Coast South. So we don't all have the same culture, and African Americans, like Africans, are going to have various cultures based on the region in which we grew up. It's the same thing within the same nation in Africa. You're not going to come up in Angola along the border with the Congo and have the exact same culture as somebody coming out of Rwanda or the border with Namibia. That ain't how this going to work. That's within the same country. I done already told you, Northern Nigerians and Southern Nigerians ain't the same. Northern Ghanaians and Southern Ghanaians are not the same. I done already told y'all about that. That's how this works. And so, we got to learn, and we African Americans are standing up for ourselves. I'm glad we're doing it. And Africans on the continent are going to stand up for themselves. And that makes perfect sense. But the issue is, we all got to remember that this grudge and this beef is only between those who want to entertain beef. And not a single one has come out as a block and castigated the Western European white man. We African Americans, excuse me, we African Americans are sitting up here letting these white folks off the hook for what they do and what they say and what they've benefited from even. Well, you know, I understand you, Mr. White Man. If I was you, I'd have the same view. But we different. It ain't hatred. Okay, tell that to the brother with the other nationality. I understand that we different. But you know what? I don't hate you, and we related. We cousins. And I want us to get along like it. We don't have the decency to follow that logic. Yes, in Africa, many of them are too soft towards white folk. Yeah, that's a problem. We had that same problem, though. It's not to the same extent. We will castigate white folk and still be too soft with them sometimes. We're better about standing up to white folk than they are, but that don't mean that we're doing the best job that anybody could have done. And I myself am just plain old tired. Not of standing up for black Americans. But the thing is, if I'm gonna stand up for black Americans, when we right, that means that when the continental African is right, I stand up for him too. When the Caribbean is right, I stand up for him too. And understand, yeah, a lot of this does have to do with my religion. Some of you want to say, well, you know, the Arabs and the Arab slave trade black minded, you just going easy on them because you look like them. No. The real truth is, I will blame them for what I know they did wrong. If I know they did wrong, I will blame them. And I've done it before, and I'll do it again when I know. But I live with them, and I'm aware of where they're wrong, and I'm aware of where they're not wrong, and I'm not willing to sit up here and cast blame against them when they're not wrong. That's where the issue comes in, and a lot of y'all get upset about that. Because I blame them where they're wrong, but then I exonerate them when you say something that's stereotypical, but it's not correct. But if you really want to know the truth, the reason why I'm so sick and tired of the fighting between black folk is because I am Muslim. And this is where I've seen black folks of various nationalities get along fine. I'm married to the love of my life who's black, and she ain't American. And she ain't Caribbean. She ain't Brazilian. She ain't no kind of South American. She's from the continent. I'm from the western part of the continent. She's from the eastern part of the continent. Yeah, I'm a West African. And some of y'all are like, this Creole calling himself a West African. Yeah, that's my ancestry. And I'm happy about that ancestry. I thank Allah for making me out of West African DNA. And it is black Muslims I have seen, the ones you think are sellouts for the Arabs. I've seen black Muslims who do what I've done. Marry each other, get along and cooperate across various nationalities. Because I tell y'all straight away, man, look, you let that Indian or that Pakistani say some slick stuff about one of my brothers from the Caribbean or from the continent, and it's not warranted, and it ain't about a behavior that's voluntary. I'm gonna sit up and say, hey man, do you have proof of what you just said? Before you jump on our brother, if he's your brother for real, before you jump on our brother, do you have proof? We'll be the ones to check these folks. Because if you were black Jamaican, and it's not even about marriage per se. If you were black Jamaican and you relate, not just trying to marry the Indian or the Jordanian or any other Arab or the Pakistani or the Afghan, forget trying to marry. If you are black at all, no matter where you're from, and you relate to them as though you are an equal, as though your race is equal, as though your culture is equally valid to theirs, as though your customs that are not against the Sharia are equally Islamic to theirs, they take issue with that. If that's how you relate to them, they're going to say something about it. As a Muslim, I get sick and tired of seeing black folk fighting with each other because those of us that are Muslim don't really take this on that much. We'll fight someone that wants to fight, even within the race, but we don't go looking to say foul stuff about people. And the First Lady of Nigeria, who's a Muslim, like I said, she's been in Abuja too long. Them chicks and I would just wild out even when they come from the north. So I ain't shocked. But what you see here is that she's the one. It was not her husband, it was her that said that slick stuff. That's what you see. And you see that woman from the south of Nigeria act just like an American in terms of making a confession but refusing to take accountability and give back the degree. That's what you see. So when you got us sitting up here fighting these so-called diaspora wars, notice that the women are acting the same when it comes to black men. But they want you and me fighting with each other. Notice that. Man, stop this mess. Don't follow them, because if you're taking up for your own, but you're being fair, and you're just as vehement and loud about extending the olive branch to other black nationalities and their members that ain't about the beef and they're all about the cooperation and the mutual defense, if that's what you're doing, you fair. And the women don't like that. They don't matter the nationality. You know how I know? The reason I know this is because when any brother from another nationality tells me that they've been encouraged to badmouth black Americans, it's been by women. And what's the reason? Because the black woman in many countries worships that white man. That's why. So it serves their purpose to have us busy fighting with each other while they try to sneak in the master's bed. That's what that's about. And I, for one, am sick and tired of it. We brothers are being reactive. And the whole time it is that we're being reactive, we're learning this stuff and not questioning where it came from, so we don't pick up on the pattern that this is coming from nationalities of sisters that don't take accountability, especially if black men hold them to it. AC was right about one thing, boy. Black men, he was wrong about black men of different nationalities all being a bunch of tethers. No, he went too far with that. When it came to them sisters, he was wrong when he said all Keishas, meaning all black women of all nationalities. But he was right that it is a widespread problem, not limited to a few nationalities. He was right about that. South Africa, gone. That's why I put that screenshot that I did as the thumbnail for the last upload on here. It's 2 years old. Some worse ones were 2 years old when that one was new. Coming out of South Africa, it's lost. The last thing I'm going to talk about is going to be that woman that sat up and said that she married this dude and then she divorced him because he was corny. And she chose that man because she had a son and she wanted the son to have a family that she didn't have. But it wasn't his child. This is what I'm going to tell y'all straight, man. In Kenya, in Nairobi, women will get pregnant by one man and beg another man to stay with them and be the, take them, choose them, select them and be the dad because the natural dad ran out. He'd be like, I wasn't trying to conceive, I was trying to bust a nut. You the one got pregnant. Okay, you know what? I'm out. Because I ain't asked for this baby. When they're in that situation, they will go to another man and beg, please take me in and raise this baby. You mean take care of you while you raise that baby? No, shuck that fit. It ain't my baby. I know, because a Kenyan man told me in my comment section about that a long time ago. He was visiting his parents from the U.S. He was visiting them back in Nairobi. This chick that wouldn't give him the time of day back in school showed up at his doorstep begging, please take me in and take care of this baby. What the hell is in it for me? She was on some American shit. These are the ones that want you and me fighting with each other about nationality. That's who Keisha is. Regardless of nationality, they want you and me fighting with each other about nationality. Man, shuck that fit. So when his sister from the States sat up on this panel talking about she married this dude, but she left him because he corny, two things she said. And this is who these other women are learning from, which is why we can't afford these nationality beefs between the race. She sat up and said, he ain't got to put hands on me, but he needed to set boundaries. Tell me no. Tell me I can't go out. If that man had said that, if he had set boundaries, she would have made him put hands on her. Because she would have put hands on him. Set boundaries. She wasn't going to listen if he ain't put hands on her. And if he did, she would have called the cops. Or called some dudes to get him killed. Somebody that knows her, she's in Atlanta. And someone that knows her actually said, two guys that knew her actually said that that man did not deserve this. And another one said that the man that she married looks like he's Indian. Now, we know how black women are about any man of any race that doesn't look highly upon black people. But we also know how black women are about black men that are ambiguous and look like men of these races. Those are two different things. I would get better treatment from a black woman if I made them think I was something exotic and didn't tell them I was black for real. I know. Ask me how. Well, if you listen long enough, you know. I know that's the case. And I know how Atlanta is because I lived there in my adult life. So she had a black man who was kind of brown with straight hair, I take it. And well, there's no goddamn way she was going to respect that man no matter what he did. They don't respect men that are jet black, muscular, 7 feet tall, bald-headed. They might fear them, but they don't really respect them enough, especially when they see the nice side of those men. But you take an ambiguous-looking man of a normal size, and he already is a stepdad to her child, you know what the hell that is. She looking at that man like this is a wimp. That's why I picked him. But I can't stay with him. I can't tolerate it for long. So no. Okay, my son done had enough positive experience. All right, you know what? Now I need to be for the streets again, and this dude ain't it. That's what that was. Talking about somebody need him to set boundaries. They need a man to look a certain way when he sets them boundaries. And they're not honest about this stuff. She nasty, messy, ratchet. This is from whom many Nigerian in the South and Abuja, South African, big city Cape Verdean women, Nairobi women, big city Ugandan women are learning. This is who's teaching them. And I'll be damned if you and I are going to get into arguments over nationality to the benefit of these hyena monkey bitches. That's not fair, not only to women like my wife, but to other women. Well, yeah, other women that are like her. Other women that ain't a part of this problem. Most of whom are not in the West. It's not fair to them. It ain't fair to you. It's not fair to Tariq Nasheed, who takes it too damn far. It ain't fair to Accountable Commentary, who takes it too far. It ain't fair to none of us. All it does is create a bickering and another smokescreen for them to go trying to sneak into the beds of the non-black men whom they're willing to respect more than they would respect the black men that look like these men. Sitting up here talking about the black wife effect, and we see the hypocrisy in that. They went on chase after these non-black men. Why didn't that chick with the son for whom she wanted a family try the black wife effect on her husband who is black but looks Indian? Why she ain't do that for him? I don't care why. She's one of those that if she saw me chilling out with Liberians in Atlanta, she would be like, well, you know, them Liberians don't like us. Oh, shut the F up. Fuck the shuck up. They don't like you because you're nasty, stink, filthy, funky, trifling. How about you close your mouth? Liberian women only like you when they trying to learn your ratchet ways because you a B word. Now, look, I'm about to go and meet my partner from South Africa, and we're going to watch this movie, inshallah, Bad Boys for Life. We're going to see that, inshallah. I'll catch y'all on the next one. And in the meantime, gentlemen, we're going to have things about which we disagree within nationalities, let alone between. But let's go ahead and make them distinctions and disagreements and not division. Because believe you me, the nationalities that are the most mentioned in this stuff also have women that are the most ratchet. Do you not see that pattern? I hope to God that what I said helps out. Thank you for listening. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout. Assalamu alaikum. Black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it. Black patriarchy till extinction of Judgment Day. And thank y'all for flying with us here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.